Hey, all right, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining us. We've got so much to talk about today on Stay Free with Russell Brand, a Rumble show. That means speech is free here. We ain't interested in disinformation. We ain't interested in hate speech. We're only interested in anti-establishment takes on stories that you might hear elsewhere, but from a different perspective. Like today, we're talking about the US using the Russian coup to push more Ukraine aid. What, you need more money? Because that bloke momentarily dressed up, got in a tank, mouthed off a little bit. We've got Marco Rubio's first-hand account of UFOs. As senators talking about this stuff, Gareth, you'd have to be the coldest-heartedest on-screen assistant on Earth not to have your cockles warmed by such a tale.
I enjoyed your unique summary of the Russian coup there.
Aye,
A geezer dressed up, mouthed off a bit.
That's right. This is the news. And once we're off YouTube, you're watching us on YouTube right now, you're watching us on Twitter right now. Well, we're going to appear here for a little while, or Gut Bucket, or whatever social media destination you find yourself. But we'll be exclusively on Rumble, home of free speech, talking about what I call one of Rumble's favourite sons. He may have once belonged to the Kennedy dynasty, RFK, but now he belongs to the Rumble family, a family where free speech is protected. I don't think there's ever been anything in his family history where free speech has led to any tragedies at all. Also, we've got a fantastic story regarding the leaked audio of Donald Trump. We're looking at it in depth. We're giving you a perspective on it that's going to knock your bloody knickers off. But let's get into what I call an unusual take on the normal news right now. Do you know, hold on, before this though, I just want to say, I'm getting more friendly with RFK by the day.
You are.
Many of you would have seen earlier in the week when I did one of my ill-advised on-screen messages. Let me know in the comments in the chat. If you're watching us on Rumble now, press the red button, join us on Locals. Let us know if you saw that moment where I think I took my top off. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I think you definitely did.
I took it off.
Yeah.
I took off the top. I don't know why. Say goodbye to these guys, because it's the last you'll see of them. And then I got into sort of RFK and that, and then I messaged RFK, and I said, like, oh, you know, let's do a push-up competition. Anyway, he's come back. We've got to do a pull-up competition.
I think you said a topless collaboration at one point.
Yeah, and I suppose that was, as you said at the time, Gareth, a misleading choice of words.
Yes.
Anyway,
it worked.
He's into it.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to raise money for his campaign in a pull-up competition. Obviously, Gareth, I'm concerned I'm going to lose to
I'm more
RFK.
concerned about how much you're going to raise.
Why? What do you think? Not enough?
I hope it's a lot.
It's got to be.
We don't want the headline to be Russell Brand made $50.
Russell Brand, weak upper body.
And lost.
No back strength. Beaten by elderly gentleman. Defeats Brand in feats of strength. I know, mate. I'm thinking, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on YouTube, I'm thinking of juicing. You know?
I think you could say that. Juicing?
I don't mean juicing as in green juice, celery. I'm thinking of juicing.
Oh, I see.
You know?
Right.
But is it the only jab RFK would consider taking? Bit of steroids, get myself ready for the contest. Hoof, hoof, hoof. Is it ever right to juice? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. I can't lose to RFK. There's money to be made here, not for us, but for a campaign for freedom of speech, a campaign for RFK. Let's know what you think about RFK. Anyway, we'll get into that in more depth off YouTube because he's been banned again from YouTube, and we love our 6.4 million Awakening Wonders over there. We're confused as how that number has frozen. Shadow banned much, did they? Didn't they? Was name? Haven't it? So listen, what about them hawks in Congress saying that Prigozhin rebellion should mean more Ukraine aid? I think anything that happens, they'll say that should mean more Ukraine aid. And if you are Ukrainian, I love you. And your country should not be torn apart by war. And the failure of this counter-offensive, I think, lays solely at the feet of NATO and the American military-industrial complex. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that. But why? How are they justifying the Prigozhin rebellion leading to more Ukraine aid?
Well, because either way it's going to lead to more military aid, isn't it? If this had been, I mean, obviously the media have said this was a huge success, this destabilised Russia, this embarrassed Putin, this is why we need to keep going in the manner that we have done. Even though, as we've talked about with Aaron Matta and Jeffrey Sachs this week, the counter-offensive has not been successful. It's been losing 1,000 Ukrainian lives a day. It's been a bloodbath, as reported in some sections of the news, even though in the media they'll report things very differently.
Look how they reported it straight away, just like this is literally an hour after that coup, when it wasn't plain or clear at all how it should be analysed or what if any, conclusions could be drawn from it. Russia looks increasingly medieval after the coup that wasn't. We've got a fantastic story for you later in the week that it describes how many of the lockdown measures literally leaned into medieval science, which is oxymoronic. You didn't have science in the medieval times. Putin's weaknesses laid bare, as well as his lovely chest, after 24 hours of rebellion in Russia. Well, that sounds like a sort of a good name for a tour. Bizarre and chaotic 36 hours in Russia feels like the beginning of the end for Putin. So there's the media utilising that event to convey a story that is possibly dubious, that it is a demonstration of Putin's instability and fallibility, excuse me. And the military-industrial complex, you know, and their allies in the media immediately reached the conclusion the best thing to do here, is to send a bunch of weapons to Ukraine, Mexico. Who knows where they'll end up? 70% of them can't be tracked. Another audit failed by the Pentagon. They're people that need another 6.8 billion in expenditure, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not the beginning of the end for the arms industry, isn't it? So, like, 3 arms industry lobbyists have told Politico, mainstream news, that they believe the Prigozhin uprising will help Hawks argue for a supplemental spending package for the Pentagon and Ukraine. We already know that with the deal that they did with the debt ceiling, that emergency funding was not affected by the debt ceiling deal that they did, and that this 113 billion that's already been spent on the war can just continue.
Are you sickened by this? Let me know in the chat. I'm bloody well sickened by it. I've had just about enough. Yeah, they've told Politico, have they, that they're going to use this for yet more dollars. Let me know how you feel about that. Next story is your friend of mine, Nancy Pelosi. Her husband's just snapped up $2.6 million of Apple and Microsoft stock. Now, I know there are literal apps that allow you to emulate Pelosi's stock trading. Seems like it's potentially a bloody good idea. It's a good way to beat the market, follow the Pelosis.
Yeah, they've done very well. Yeah, so this is like 50 call options that Paul Pelosi has exercised, which he purchased in May 2022, and has now exercised those. He's kind of cashing in on those options.
Oh, yeah.
And since he's done that, obviously, can you imagine they've climbed 33% in Apple shares and 29% in Microsoft shares. So that's another few millions to add to the Pelosi's coffers.
It says here that buying and selling in Apple accounted for 17%, over 17% of the Pelosi's overall trading volume, and yet during this same period, Pelosi held at least one private conversation with Apple CEO Tim Cook about the state of Apple and possible effects on the company from various pending bills to reform Silicon Valley. So, Eva, let me know in the comments which you think it is. Is Pelosi some kind of like Two-Face Harvey Dent, schizophrenic figure, who's having one conversation with Tim Cook, this is what we're going to be doing at Apple. She goes home, there's old Paul Pelosi. Who's this? Is it a burglar or what is it? Who's this person in the house?
Allegedly.
Get him out the door. Oh, bring him back in again.
Allegedly.
Get him back out again. Don't let him near the toolkit, for God's sake. She's 1 minute she was with Tim Cook having a conversation about Apple. She gets home. What's it you do again, Paul? Oh, you know, trading stocks and that. What did you do at work? Not much. Who'd you chat to? Tim Cook from Apple? What do you say? Mind your own business, so let that burglar back in the house. You'll get another clump, son. Hey, I'm not saying that that's what went on.
I would feel physically sick.
If anyone assumed that that was my take on this ridiculous story. But given that we're living in a crazy old world where even Marco Rubio has admitted to being briefed firsthand on the retrieval of UFOs, it's impossible to know almost which way's up. There's a psychedelic revolution. There's a UFO revolution. The mainstream media is collapsing. Its economic model is falling apart. Centralist authoritarian models are doubling down, as we told you yesterday. Elon Musk's real battle ain't with Mark Zuckerberg, it's with the censorship industrial complex. And remember, later this week, we're going to exclusively, you should sign up for this, we're going to exclusively show you, me, Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, and a very surprising special guest, perhaps the person who's been most impacted by the censorship industrial complex. You're not going to want to miss it. That's on Friday. It was a brilliant show yesterday. Although in some ways it was marred by the conduct of the man next to me, a man who swore he'd never take his top off, yet during yesterday's show did precisely that in a bizarre throwdown to RFK. There's nought as queer as folk, as they say in the north of England, where you're of course from.
I am, yes. Should we get back to the Marco Rubio story?
I never, Gareth, I never left it.
No,
I've
no,
been
no.
looking at Marco Rubio. I'm looking at him now. Look at his little face. He's squinting. He's got a very full mouth. What did he call him? Little Marco. That was Trump's Little Marco. But he got a hell of a mouth on him.
You made an observation about the plants inside and outside of his house.
This is an important observation. You don't get distracted, because I know you lot, you think that the UFO stuff's a distraction, don't you? Let us know in the chat. I think it's hypocritical. I think it's seismic. I'm friends with Jeremy Corbell. I believe these whistleblowers are legit. I believe some of this new footage is legit. We're going to be talking about this later in the coming days, about how this story is escalating. But I know a lot of you think it's a distraction. Well, the real distraction in this piece of footage is the plants outside the house are exactly the same as the plant in the house. And the plant in the house is communicating, possibly via UFO technology, with the plants outside the house.
There's your exclusive,
That's
everyone.
your exclusive. Never mind mud wrestling with RFK. Never mind that we're going to have a world-shattering exclusive coming up. Can I even bring it up?
No, I'm not sure
about
you
our
can.
exclusive
No,
guest? Can I
because
message
you'll
that
give it away
person? I'll
again.
give it away.
You'll give it
I
away.
can't do it. We're not ready yet, but you are going to want to be a member of Locals. Press the red button by the time that happens. Let's have a look at Marco Rubio's plants communing
I
with
would
one
say there
another.
are people that have come forward to share information with our committee over the last couple of years. I would imagine some of them are potentially some of the same people that perhaps he's referring to. I want to be very protective of these people. A lot of these people came to us even before these protections were in the law for whistleblowers to come forward.
Sorry, people who have had firsthand.
Okay, so that seems credible. The whistleblowers had addressed him even prior to the story breaking.
I guess his point is it's not just like whistleblowers with very little clearance. These are people with high clearance. These are people that he's saying, have been briefed. And that Josh Hawley, another senator as well, said whistleblowers report is pretty close to the information he received in a briefing. That's the one from David Grush that we reported on last week. So more and more people in positions of power are coming out and saying there is a lot of credible sources to
They're
this.
cross-referencing the data, and it's stacking up. That's interesting. Now, also, keep your eyes on that plant. The one inside wants to communicate with the ones outside. And I think it's out of order. It's like when you see a pigeon at a zoo. You sort of think, well, I can just leave when I want.
Now, who claim to have firsthand knowledge of seeing this type of thing?
Or have firsthand knowledge or firsthand claims of certain things. Some are public figures, and we've heard from them in the past. Others, have not shared publicly.
So that category of people who have firsthand knowledge, who say they have actually seen these kinds of things, do you find many of them credible?
Well, I don't find them either not credible or credible because we have no basis about understand.
Statement.
Yeah.
Not credible or credible. Not incredible or credible. Somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
That's actually not achievable. That's like
Right.
a Buddhist koan. What's the sound of one hand clapping? Well, Bart Simpson answered that. But what is neither credible nor incredible is the unknowable, activated nothingness that is behind all material reality. This exclusively from Marco Rubio and his animated plants.
You can obviously see why I think probably a lot of our audience are talking about this being a distraction. It is interesting that it's coming about at the same time as all the things going on with Hunter Biden and lots of other news stories. Obviously, the situation with Ukraine, the continuing arming of Ukraine through the military-industrial complex. You can see why that's something that they would be interested in.
I got sent Hunter Biden's book. I guess that's why I feel sorry for Hunter Biden. Like ages ago, when he had a book coming out, they sent the book and, would you like to talk to Hunter Biden? And I thought, they can't watch our shows because they would know that we are quite critical of the Biden administration. But then I also am conflicted because I know he's a person that's trying to get into recovery and stuff, so I get confused.
But they're separate situations, aren't they? Someone's recovery from, drug addiction is a very different thing to potential tax evasion or bungs or bribery or whatever else it is, or even if it's just using...
Bungs, bribery, evasion...
Right,
guns...
Sure. I mean, guns, I guess you could say in
That's a
some
bit
ways
druggy.
is slightly,
I gotta have some
connected.
drugs. I'm gonna need a gun. I ain't paying my taxes. I'm on drugs.
Yeah, but when you're in a situation where, like it's been suggested, he's sitting with his father telling energy companies in China or Russia or Ukraine, wherever it is, that they're going to need to pay them for this and that we've got the best access and the Bidens are the best at doing everything. That isn't a situation where we should be talking about the President of the United States. That's too when we talk about Donald Trump being murky and having these deals and having these documents, then we're talking about Biden, who's meant to be the complete opposite to that.
You're right.
This is a very murky and embarrassing situation.
It is murky.
And potentially illegal. I mean, I think that's what we're getting at. These whistleblowers.
This is beyond murk. This is the law. Murk, that's just a thick liquid. A thick liquid or vapour. But this is the law. Listen, I know you're enjoying this on YouTube, and I bet you can't wait to see our take on YouTube taking down another RFK video. Thankfully, RFK is affiliated now with the Rumble family. Another video taken down. Soon, RFK and I are going to be mano a mano in combat of the body and mind, raising, I hope, a lot of money, particularly once I start my steroid program, in a pull-up contest. All money donated to his campaign. Got to support RFK. He's a truth teller. Anyway, we're going to be talking about this in more depth, but only on Rumble. I need you to click the link in the description right now. Join us over there where we're going to get into this in some depth, as a matter of fact, and there's going to be a lot of free speech. You're going to love it. So click the link,